Okay, great. All right, thanks everybody for being here today. Have a special presentation with our police department here to give us a little information on situational awareness, give us maybe some good horror stories that we can laugh at, hopefully. And they're going to give a presentation, and afterward we'll have a chance to do a Q&A. So there should be a microphone floating around eventually.
Yes.
And make sure you say your question in the mic so they can get it on through the system. So without further ado, we're going to bring these two guys up. We have Gonzalez and John Borde. They are officers with the Austin Police Department. Let's give them a hand.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody's had some coffee, because we're not that lively, I guess. But just like Joe said, it's a very informal presentation. It's really just, like I said, situational awareness, general questions, comments y'all might have. It's really open for anything. You know, if anybody has a question, just go ahead and spit it out. So it's pretty laid back. Want everybody to feel comfortable. But just to give you, like Joe said, I've been downtown for about 11 years. He's been here longer, so he has probably some more stories for you. And John has been downtown for about
7 or 8 years. Been with the department for 15.
So pretty familiar. Things have been changing, especially with this recent city ordinance debacle, I guess you want to call it. That's where most of our, I guess, questions and concerns arise from. Coming to work, going home in the early mornings or at night, to and from parking garages or whatnot. That's where most people have questions and concerns. 90% of our work deals with transient related. We say there's homeless and there's transient. There's two different things. The homeless, we're actually trying to get some help. We rarely deal with them. It's the transients who really don't want help. They just want. But there's really no presentation, like I said. So, is there anything you don't want to tell me?
Yeah, the majority of the info that we'll give out is best done with Q&A. That's where we cover the main topics that y'all are here, the questions that y'all have, and we can answer any questions. And that's where we cover the most of it and get the most out of doing these presentations.
So the more questions, the better.
I have one, Lewis. We have a bunch of employees here that park in the parking garages a block away west of here.
San Antonio?
Yes, and there are concerns with the homeless, especially with the new ordinance and how that's going to affect their travel, their commute to and forth from this building over there. Now, I know as of recent, we've had some homeless interaction that has given some people scared. So maybe if you could give us some tips on how to deal with the homeless, especially walking from here to there, and the folks in here can hear it, and maybe give them some empowerment, like we talked earlier.
Yeah, the thing we try to tell people the most is always be aware of your surroundings. People like to put their head in their phones and, run late to work, so they're not really looking around when they get out of their cars. They're just out, straight to work, not really paying attention. They might be on their phone, they might be in it, so there could be somebody right next to you and you never know it. So we want to tell people, before you get out your vehicle, look around, take that time, because there's always somebody sleeping in the corners, typical garage like that. You find a little dark spot, and that's their home, I guess, every day. They're used to it until we can do criminal trespasses or anything like that. But definitely if you see anything suspicious, if you feel there's anything suspicious, don't bother with 311, always call 911. That's what we always suggest. Just call 911, let the call taker set that priority, whether it be a 1 or a 3. Don't worry about that, just always call 911. And that's what we need. The more calls, the better. Eventually, that's what hopefully gets us to more bodies. So that's what we want. So by no means are you wasting our time. People say, well, I don't want to waste your time. Yes, that's what we do. We respond to calls. So you need that. And if anything, what it does is it puts a point we're all data driven, so we need to know what's going on in that area. The more calls from that area, that's where all our resources are shifted. You know, if we see there's a lot of calls from that parking garage or that route to this building, then we'll shift resources to that area and we'll focus, whether it be directed patrols or anything like that. But yeah, always look around. If you can, if everybody parks in that same parking garage, walk together, you know, it's always strength in numbers, at least another person with you. I don't know what this building or your employer allows as far as what to carry, as far as weapons. Carry something that you might be able to use if, you know, something arises. Have a plan in mind if something pops out. First, of course, you always want to get away from the problem, right? So you run or whatever. Try to call 911 as fast as you can. If you don't have time to get away from that person, if somebody actually attacks you or you think they're going to attack you, well, have a plan in mind. You know, think about it in the office or at home or on the way to work. What am I going to do if somebody ever does grab me? Or am I willing to, or am I ready to put up a fight? And what am I going to do? Because if chances are, if you haven't thought about it, you're going to freeze. So definitely always look around. Security guards in that area, always look around, make sure you know where they're at, get familiar with them. Pretty sure they've seen you come in and out every day, so they're familiar with who's supposed to be in there. Yes, ma'am.
If you don't see it, can you do anything?
You don't see what?
If somebody attacks me and then I call you and you haven't seen it, the police, can you still do anything?
So
I'm telling you he hit me and you didn't see it.
So there are two parts to that question that I'll answer. As far as the actual criminal charge of assault, so if somebody does assault you, it has to, because it's a misdemeanor, it has to happen within our presence to make the arrest immediately, or if we believe that the violence will continue. So we can remove that person from the situation if we think as soon as we leave that violence is going to continue. If you're up in your office and you're safe and that person is off and it's a transient or whatever, that report's going to get written up, it's going to go to a detective, and a detective is going to have a warrant filed. That part of it is out of our hands. That's how the law is written. Because it kind of takes out that he said, she said type of situation.
But how do you know who they are? Do they have IDs?
The homeless people, we're going to do whatever we can to try and locate that person based off of your description, the area that they're in. They usually all stay within a 4 to 5 block radius of where they are. And we can usually locate them. There's video, and we can get it on video, then any photos from that video will be passed out through emails in the department for anybody that's dealt with that person before, maybe identified them, because we're on first name basis with a lot of the transients downtown. We know them very well, or we've seen them, we've dealt with them, and we can find out what their names are. But perfect situation, we do know who they are, their ID, you're separated from that situation, from that assault, you're saying this person assaulted me, then that will go to a detective. The detective will review the report that we write, potentially call you, get a statement from you, try and make contact with the suspect, and there will be a warrant issued for that person's arrest through the courts. Then they'll be picked up and they'll have to go in front of the judge and answer for the crime. The second part to that question made me think of something that he was talking about earlier with the 911 calls. If something happens in between the parking lot and you getting here, and you make it all the way here and you're freaked out, you couldn't pick up the phone and call 911, but the incident is over and you're thinking, well, I shouldn't call 911 now. It's already over, that person's gone, there's no point, all I'm going to do is take up time. Please call, because that goes back to the little red dot on the map that he's talking about. That 911 call is going to get marked. It may be something that we absolutely can't do anything about. We may not be able to find that person. It could be over and done with, but that 911 call makes a mark. And at the end of the month, whenever they go and look at crime stats, and they're seeing all these little red dots concentrated right over here by Republic Square, you're going to go, ooh, we got an issue over here, now we need to move resources so that we can address that issue. And they're gonna break it down further on like what type of call that was, what time of day did it happen, and all of that. So they're very good about breaking down statistics, crime analysis, what's going on in an area, and then moving resources. Because if y'all don't call 911, we don't know that it happened. And there could be an issue that's going on that we're completely and totally oblivious to because it happens, you get to a safe place and you say, there's no point in me calling now. That person's gone, I'm really not that hurt. But little do you know, that might be somebody that we've been looking for. It might be somebody that you can give us a description on or a roundabout area that they're in, and they have been committing this crime or ramping up the level until they get to a point where somebody really gets hurt. So no matter what it is, you're not going to bug us, you're not going to bug the 911 call taker. Call, give the information, best description you can, and help us out. Does that answer your question? The first part did it answer?
I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
It's your.
Okay, I have a quick question. There, now you can hear me. Have you seen an increase in violent crime in this area? Can you share some statistics? And then I'm also going to ask the audience, when you ask a question, if you wouldn't mind standing up and talking on mic. We want to share this with all of our employees.
As far as...
Well, it depends what you mean. Violent crimes in general, yes, there's been an increase, like shootings or whatnot downtown. Yes, those have gone up. But I think for this, what we're talking about, transient related to that sort, no. I was telling Joe earlier, I've been down here 11 years downtown, not just with the department, a little bit longer, but downtown 11 years, and I can only count of 2 times that I know of firsthand where somebody actually got assaulted from a transient for no reason. They usually attack each other for petty stuff. You owe me a beer, you took my socks, or territorial, because they do stay in their own little areas. Some group will stay over here, Chavez, some over here, by the parks, whatnot. So they do stay away from each other. I don't deal with them. They have their own little cliques. So they usually attack each other. They won't attack people just coming and going. They might bother you. They might seem aggressive. So we tell people, be vigilant. Don't be paranoid, but be vigilant. Be somewhat respectful. You don't have to give an answer as to why you don't want to give them something. Say no thanks, leave me alone, and be on your way. But stay aware of your surroundings. Make sure if they do come behind you, you think they're following you. It's usually because they're trying to instill that fear so you can go ahead and give them something, or hey, leave me alone. That's usually what they want. But they're not really going to attack. I haven't seen of anybody just being attacked for that reason. I don't know if you can count the same 2 instances, and it really had nothing to do with solicitation. It was just, they're a little off. They're in kilter. One was just having a bad day, and somebody kind of cut in front of them and punched him in the crosswalk. Another one was just going block to block to block, just punching people. Then, for no reason, he was just on something.
It's usually what it is. It's usually a mental health breakdown when they assault somebody, or they're high on some type of narcotic, or they're drunk on alcohol. I'm the same as him. I've been downtown 7 or 8 years, and I can count on one hand the number of times that I've handled a call where a transient has attacked a regular citizen that's not a transient, like he was saying. If they do get in fights, it's usually, this is my corner, because somebody's taken away the money that they're going to be getting at lunchtime, and the few times that they have assaulted somebody, it has never involved soliciting. It's always been mental health breakdown or narcotic or alcohol issue. But I don't even remember who it was that said it, and they said it perfect. We do understand, though, that perception is reality. So if they are very aggressive to you, or if you feel like they're going to be physically assaulted to you, that's your perception. That is the reality at that time. And we understand that. So call us, again, call us and let us know so that we can document these things. Let us get into the area. Let us determine, because all of the laws and dealing with The transients have changed with the city ordinances changing, so it's very subjective now. It's very vague in what it is that meets the criteria for it to be a violation of the new city ordinances. So,
Some will be out on corners, shadow boxing, throwing kicks, punches, whatever. It's not because they're trying to hit somebody, they're just a little off and they're just doing that for some reason. So stay away from them, at least 5-10 feet, and you'll be good. Just don't get, some people won't be paying attention as a group and they get close to them, well, next thing you know, they're getting elbowed or something. Well, just stay away from them, stay clear. They're not gonna come at you. They just like to shadow box for some reason in the middle of the block, I don't know.
I think we have a question right here.
So in the event of an altercation, what are my rights to use self-defense? Just curious.
you can defend your, if somebody is attacking you, or if you believe that somebody's about to attack you and cause you bodily harm, you have every right to defend yourself. So,
But I would have to go to court and defend myself.
it's really going to depend on the situation. I mean, obviously, we deal with a he said, she said situation again, which is what I was getting at with when somebody assaults someone. If you're talking about purely using your hands, and you're talking about a simple assault, there's going to be a report written. It's going to be looked at by a detective. They contact both sides. So they're going to get the stories, and if the detective believes that you were defending yourself and there are witnesses and everything is matching up, there are cameras all over downtown too, if everything lines up, you're going to be perfectly fine, and you more than likely are not even going to end up in court. It's going to end with that detective as he writes his summary on that report. Like he was touching on earlier, Texas, is it last year? They passed a new law. Yeah. In September, they just passed the new law about what you can and cannot carry on your person as far as knives, size of knives, types of batons, different things like that, what is and is not legal, and it's wide open now. So you can carry a lot. My suggestion, if you decide to carry something that you manipulate a lot, you know how to use it, you're confident in using it, and you've made that decision in your head that if somebody does approach you and is about to cause you harm or has caused you harm, that there is no doubt in your mind that you will use whatever that is. Because unfortunately, if you do carry something, then it's fair play in that fight, and that other person might get a hold of it. So if you introduce any type of weapon into that situation, if you haven't made up your mind or you're not properly trained in how to use it, there is the chance that it could be used on you. So anybody purchases anything from those little, they look like the Hello Kitty keychains, where you can slide your knuckles into the eyes, and it's got the cat ears on the top. It looks like brass knuckles basically, with the little pointy things on the end. Great, something to carry with you if you're confident in using it. Somebody's going to leave you alone if you pop them with that, and you're going to have their DNA on it too. So if they try to do something, that's a good little device.
They hurt.
It's going to get their attention, and they're probably not going to want to mess with you anymore, or it's at least going to give you enough time to separate and get away. They call them Kubotons. It's like little metal or wooden sticks that are about as big around as your finger. They're about that long, but whenever you grip it, it's enough to stick out on each side. And if you pop somebody with that thing, in the neck or in the shoulder or in the chest, right on the sternum, it's going to wake somebody up, and they're going to leave you alone, and it might give you enough time to separate and get away. And it's something that you can hold in your closed fist. A lot of people have them on their keychains. They'll use them, they'll stick them into their pocket, and the keys will hang out. And then, of course, you got knives and many options there to go from. But again, a knife is a lot more aggressive than a Kubotan or your little Hello Kitty keychain thing, which is innocent until used properly. But just food for thought. But yes, you absolutely have the right to defend yourself. Yes, you are going to have to stick around and deal with us coming and asking you questions and trying to get to the bottom of what happened, which we will do in any situation, even if it's a transient saying that one of y'all assaulted them, or vice versa.
All the time. No, she hit me, or she. really clunky. But, you know, you have to articulate what happened. Chances are, if you are defending yourself, that report's going to be very short. Very short.
I'll give you a perfect example. As a matter of fact, it was right after the ordinance changed. There was a husband and wife, I think they were walking out of Voodoo, and she had a box in her hand with the donuts or whatever in it. It might not have even been Voodoo, so I'm thinking it was like a to-go box. But she walks out, and a homeless person walked up and asked, "Hey, if you're not going to eat that, I'll take it." And she was like, "No, this is ours." Well, he slapped it out of her hand, and the husband knocked him out cold. And one of our officers, who's a corporal, responded to the call. It was on camera. He had the guys at the camera booth review it, explain what happened. He was able to catch up with the family up the street a little bit, talk to them. He gave the exact story that they caught on camera. He said, "I thought he was swinging at my wife. I thought he was about to attack my wife." And he laid that guy out cold. Don't slap something out of some guy's wife's hand is the lesson right there.
You know, and it might be a short report, just saying what happened, but chances are that, you know, person that got knocked out, they're not going to want to press charges, or even if they do, like, chances are it's going to be squashed, like right then and there. You're good, yeah, all right, fine. Small report, 3 lines, this is what happened, and be on your way. Because we have to document. Anytime there's some type of physical altercation, we have to document. Even if it was a mutual combat, some disturbance, some sort, we have to document.
Well, I really appreciate that because I see y'all and y'all are like perfectly healthy. Your eyes aren't twitching and you're tense. So I appreciate that. But I do wonder about self-defense classes and if y'all offer that or is it something for TDI?
We do not as a department. I think there would be a lot of liability in that, and city legal would steer us away from that. And at the same, they're going to steer us away from recommending anyone. But I think you could easily find places out there, companies out there that teach good self-defense. Just do your research on them, because there are a lot of them out there that are absolutely horrible, and they'll take your money. So do your research on it, ask questions, ask people that you know if they've gone to it, what they recommend before you invest any money in a company that you go with.
Tons of YouTube. Tons of YouTube. That way you can weed out the good and the bad. He's there just for show.
I have a question. Does our garage across the street, do they have cameras in there? And is that being monitored at all?
If it's the state one, chances are no.
No,
I'm just taking a long guess. Sorry.
yeah, it's something they wouldn't know, but I don't think we can over there.
Yeah, we try to tell businesses and buildings and whatever to put as many cameras as possible, and eventually they'll get linked together so it gives us access. But of course, that usually incurs some type of fee, and that fee doesn't want to get paid, so then we don't have access to the cameras. But it is what it is. It does cost to maintain those cameras. So we try to put up, or not we, but the city tries to put up cameras. Little by little, they're putting up more and more and more, and they're starting to go further east and west and spread. I don't know what cameras they're up to now, but the one on top of the 360, I think, can see all the way to like UT.
It can read the clock.
So they're real good cameras, and you know we have our real-time cameras right there by the arch, and they can see somebody holding something in their hand. If there's like some transaction being made, they'll focus in on it. So little by little, they're trying to put up more cameras.
I have a question. So with the city ordinances, what are some of like the myths or misconceptions that are out there that maybe you could clarify?
That's a good question.
Facts and truths?
So the original, it would be better to know what the original ordinances were and what they are now. So we used to have the sit-by-sleep ordinance, which kept people from sitting down or lying down on the sidewalk and from, is that me? No. Or from sleeping anywhere in public. That one has been completely lifted, and now it basically says that the person has a right to any public space that they can sit down, lie down, or sleep as long as they're not obstructing somebody from being able to walk through that public passageway, or creating a health safety hazard to themselves or someone else, which is very subjective. And we're still trying to find out through city legal, maybe if I remember, we're still trying to find out through city legal exactly what constitutes a safety hazard. Because my definition of what creates a health and safety hazard is going to be different from what a lawyer or a judge who ultimately has to make that decision thinks is a safety hazard. And we have huge sidewalks, so it's really hard. Even if you lay across the sidewalk, there's still room to walk around as long as it doesn't push somebody into the street.
Yeah, if you could do this and go around them, then they're like, well, they're not obstructed.
So that has created an issue for us, because with the one before, I can tell you, being down here for quite a while and him being down here for quite a while, 95% of the encounters that we had where they were violating that sit-by-sleep city ordinance were dealt with through compliance. We would walk up and say, you can't sit there, I need you to get up and get moving. They would stand up and they would move along. That other 5% were ones that were drunk or just having a bad day that wanted to argue, refused to get up, so we write them a citation. It's a Class C misdemeanor. It does not go on anybody's record. There were rumors out there that that Class C misdemeanor keeps them from getting housing. I've checked into that. I do not see anywhere where that keeps anybody from getting housing. A Class B or higher can prevent them from getting housing. Then it rolls into the camping. The camping has been lifted so you can camp in public, except for at parks, which conveniently, I guess City Hall is considered a park. So that creates a problem for us, because now we have tents popping up everywhere. We were trying to get over at Johnathan and 35 under control as best we could. And now we can't do anything about it. So we have to go once a week and stand by with a state-run crew that cleans up the 35 corridor, and we've got to go stand by with them while they clean up that area. So that's taking man hours away from us having to go stand by and escort those guys to go and do that, which is not fun. And then you go to the aggressive solicitation, which that ordinance that we used to have, what made things aggressive would be if somebody approached you to ask you for anything that had monetary value at a crosswalk, within 30 feet of a crosswalk. So if you're stuck at a crosswalk and you can't cross because there's traffic going across, it kind of pins you into that spot. And they had it there so that they couldn't stand at a corner and now have a captive audience, I guess you could say, that couldn't go anywhere and ask for money. They couldn't do it within like 20 or 30 feet of an ATM. They couldn't stand in front of you, block your path and ask you. They couldn't ask you more than once. They couldn't put a hand on you and ask you for money. There were very cut and dry things that made it a violation of the aggressive solicitation. And we used to go out there when it would get out of hand, and we would be in plain clothes, and we would have other officers that were in uniforms on bikes, and we would just walk up and down 6th Street in Congress. And as soon as we were approached and asked for anything and it was in violation, we would walk away, the bike officer would come in, and they would write him a ticket for that. The other issue, well, let's go into what, I guess now it's called aggressive confrontation, which is very subjective again. It doesn't define what aggressive is. What's aggressive to me might not be aggressive to you, might not be aggressive to the judge that's deciding it. So we're still working with our city legal to find out exactly what aggressive is. So there's a lot of work that we're trying to do to try and figure out exactly how we can use these reworded new ordinances to try and get control. My biggest issue is that the old ordinances gave us teeth, per se. So whenever I walked up to somebody and basically said, you can't do that, they knew that if they didn't comply, that there was a consequence to their action. Now, if I walk up to somebody and say, you can't do that, and then sit, lie, or sleep, they tell me to go get bent, and I have no teeth, and I've got to walk away. So that leaves officers with not wanting to put themselves in a situation where they're in a losing battle from the get-go. So that leaves us with having to look and deal with all of these people that are like passed out, laying down. You see it all up and down Congress and 6th Street. And my personal view on that is I completely understand, and as he said, we separate, you've got homeless people, which absolutely need to be shown grace, which absolutely need a helping hand, and we have no issue with sticking a hand out and trying to help these people up. But it gets tiring after a while, and you stick that hand out and you help them up, and they fall right back down, and you stick your hand, and they fall right back down. Now you stick your hand down again, and they slap it, or they bite it. And it's like, how many times can you try and help someone? So that's I guess that's a personal battle for me to deal with. And the ones that we deal with, we work with our homeless outreach street team. And they go around with counselors from EMS, from Integral Care, and with APD, and they go out and they make contact with the homeless people that we deal with, or the transients that we deal with on a regular. They try and set them up with services, counselors, get them in line for getting housing and everything. Sometimes it works, don't get me wrong. Sometimes they get in there, they get clean, they move on, and we don't see them again. That's not the norm. The norm is you get them lined up to where all they have to do is show up here at this time and they're going to get housing, and they never show up. Or you get them housing, and then a month, 2 months down the road, they're right back out, because it's very strict with that housing. They can't drink, they can't do drugs, they can't have friends over, it can't turn into a party apartment. And as soon as they realize that they can't do that, boom, they bounce right back out where they are on the street. So what we're dealing with, in my mind, is a mental health and an addiction issue, not a homeless issue. And these ordinances are not helping us deal with that. Because the bottom line is, I'm sure there are plenty of y'all out here with kids. You have to have structure. You have to have a defined line of you can, you can't. And somebody at some point has to shake their finger and go, you can't do that. You know, and here's a consequence if you do. Well, we're having those things taken away from us. On a small scale. I mean, obviously, if they assault somebody, if they murder somebody, you know, if anything on that larger end, we absolutely enforce that. But at small scale, we don't have that anymore.
And if there is a consequence, it's a consequence that has to have some weight to it. It's like me telling my kid, if you don't do your bed, you're not going to get a treat. Well, there that day, everybody gets a treat, and I include them. You know, like, you have to have, you tell them you're going to do something and carry it out. You know, these citations, unfortunately, they do get cited. Well, what happens? Well, how are you going to find somebody who, for one, doesn't want to pay or has no means to pay? They'll actually plead with the judge. The judge will plead with them. How about you give me $1? And we'll dismiss this. Like, no, I'm not giving you $1. Okay, well, how about we do some cleanup time, community service. Well, I'm disabled on my back hurts. I can't be doing that stuff. Okay, well, let's see what else we can do. So, you know, there's no weight behind that. So how are you going to punish somebody who, for one, doesn't really care what the punishment is? Nothing's really going to happen to them. That's what they feel. So it ties our hands. You know, it's difficult to you know.
Okay, I have a lot of questions, but I'm only going to give you 2. Okay, now the mayor says that all these people are pretty much from Austin. Can you confirm that, the transients and the homeless? And also, where are they supposed to go to the bathroom?
I can personally tell you that we are seeing, I'm seeing 2 to 3 new faces a day that I've never, and I've been down here 7 or 8 years, that I've never encountered or dealt with. I've heard other officers, I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but I've heard other officers that work up at the Arch that are seeing vehicles pull up and drop people off from Williamson County, from Hayes County.
Ridge. I mean, you name it, all around.
Does the mayor know?
I'm not going to answer that. I don't know what he does and doesn't know.
Can't speak for him. But we used to go months and not see a new person. Like, we knew all of them by name. Like I said, every day we're seeing 2, 3, 4, 5. Where'd these guys come from? And then, so what happens is they're not familiar with, how things are run out here, so they go run amok. And then we have to, of course, go and intervene, because everybody on the street hasn't really told them what they can and cannot do. They think they can do whatever they want.
Well, you and I had the one just the other day. We went to go sit down and eat at BD Riley's on 6th Street. I don't know if y'all know where that is.
He's from Winston County.
Yes, we went to sit down and eat at BD Riley's. We walk in, we sit down, we just ordered our food. Manager walks up, says, "Hey, sorry to bother y'all, but a guy just walked on a check. He handed me this as money," and it was like funny money. It was a $100 bill that was clearly not a $100 bill. And all right, so we walk around the corner. Well, now he's next door, and he had ordered, I think, like 3 full meals, had them on the table, was picking them apart and eating them, knowing good and well that he had no means to pay for it or anything. Then we walk around, and now he's in Eureka, sitting at a table in Eureka, and walk in to talk to him, and he's pulling, according to him, real $100 bills out of his pocket, saying, "I'll pay for whatever," And he was not mentally well, and we were dealing with him, and he thought he put on the show that he had no idea what he was doing and that he thought it was real money. I don't believe that. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. But that led us to either having to take him to jail for theft of service or writing a ticket for theft of service. And they're veering in the direction of, let's not take him to jail, let's write him the ticket or call MCOT for mental health, rather than going the route of somebody that consciously knew right from wrong and made the decision to go and order 3 things, eat it, knowing that he couldn't pay for it, which in my book should have consequences. He did get issued a ticket, but as we're sitting there talking to him, he was just released from jail in Wilco and was given did he say a bus pass? Or was he dropped off?
Brand new offender card,
Yeah,
and you dropped off.
from Wilco. Yeah, I think he got dropped off down there. Like, just dropped off. And the first thing that he did was he went and ordered 3 meals at BD Riley's with no money. I mean, yes, there are people popping up left and right. And you're talking, he's been down here 11 years, I've been down here 7 or 8. We know who we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We're on a first name basis with the majority of them, and I'm seeing people that, and when you talk to them, you're seeing people from Houston, from Denton, from Dallas, from San Marcos, from Williamson County. So, yeah, it's frustrating.
The bathroom.
I can tell you, we're in our parking lot staircase.
I've seen it 3 times.
For somebody that deals with him on a daily basis, I kind of have a soft heart in that area. I don't think that it's right. I mean, obviously, urinating in public is not a good thing. Defecating in public is not a good thing. But every business that they try and walk into tells them, get out of here, and will not let them use a bathroom. There are very, very limited public bathrooms that you have access to here. They took away the one that was at 6th and Brazos. And I mean, I think everybody in here knows when you gotta go, you gotta go. And they're in a situation to where they've got businesses that are telling them to go away. You can't use our bathroom unless you buy something, which I get the business side of that. So they're just put in a very bad situation. I think that public bathrooms need to be provided, or more public bathrooms need to be provided. If the city's going to create the problem, they need to at least provide them with a place to go to the bathroom. So, but I agree with you. I don't think they should, and I still have to walk up to them and deal with them and talk to them about, this is where you can go. Yeah, you got to walk 5 blocks to get there, but this is where you got to go.
It was crazy that was not provided for in the ordinance.
Yeah, and it's just sad because it's just like anything else. You give an inch, they take, in this case, 100 miles. No miles, it's more than that. Because how are you going to differentiate who's going to use their services the way they're supposed to be used versus the ones who are going to go in there and lock the door and not come out for half an hour to an hour? Why? Because they're either, rolling something up, smoking something up, baking in the sink, making a mess, sleeping, drinking. you name it. 90% of the time, that's what's going on. The ones who do want to use the restroom, they'll go in and out, but it's very few far between. We get called for criminal trespasses constantly. These guys have been in there for 45 minutes, everybody's trying to use it, so then we have to break the door down, or because they're either passed out, and they'll just make a mess. Even churches, St. Mary's, used to allow people to go in there all the time, use the restrooms and whatnot, and they finally got fed up because there's urination all over the place. So it's just sad because things don't, people don't do what they're supposed to do.
Or they end up with needles in there, and now you've got that's a true safety hazard. Or like we've dealt with before, they used to have the porta pots outside of the arch. So that basically turned into a wonderful place for a drug dealer to go and sit and have people come in and out and do drug deals that the cameras can't see. So it's the outliers, the few and far between, that cause the problem and get the nice things taken away from the people that treat the facilities the way that they should. I mean, there are plenty. Right on the corner of 6th and Congress, you have Capital One that has pizza in it, right? It's a little coffee shop in there. It's air conditioned. They've got a ton of places to sit. They've got a clean bathroom. It's where we just came from, Coffee with a Cop. There were probably 5 or 6 transients that were sitting in there that were reading newspaper, reading books, weren't causing problems. They were using the bathroom and coming out like a normal person does immediately after. They keep it clean, they take care of stuff. And the people at Capital One are more than happy to let them come in and use their facilities. Starbucks does the same, but there are a handful of them that come in there and we get called and we've got to give a criminal trespass because the person's abusing, what that private business who has a right to tell them, no, you can't come in here, and they tear it up for people. And now you see, I think Chipotle, you've got to have an access code just to be able to get into the bathroom. So now you got to go up to the front counter and ask them, hey, can I use the bathroom? And they've got to give you the access code just to get into the bathroom. And there are tons of businesses downtown that are like that put the little key code on their bathroom doors so that they don't have people going in there, tearing it up, leaving needles, shooting up heroin and then passing out, and the door's locked and nobody can get in there. Now we get called, what do you do? So we got to kick the door. Now we destroy that private business's property to kick a door for somebody that's going to go in there and shoot up heroin. They're not going to pay for it. They don't care. So it's frustrating. I sympathize with you, but I also understand where the ones that don't cause the constant problems, they've got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, quick question. I guess specifically over here by the Bode Park and there's all the bus stops. What is the quickest response time, or what's the quickest process to get a response time if there's like a disturbance, like there's people arguing or there's, physical altercation? Is it to get the bus driver to call dispatch or to go ahead and do 911 right away?
Chances are somebody's already calling, because there's Capital Metro, right? So they have a direct line to officers working off duty with Capital Metro. I'm one of them. So they'll call us if it's near a bus stop or near a bus, whatever. And they're calling them. There's also the Downtown Alliance. If you see them with the green shirts or the red shirts, they also have a direct line to overtime officers who work primarily 6th Street and Congress. 2 APD officers, they have a direct line to them, so they're probably making that contact. But still, always just call 911 and just explain what's going on. And it's pretty quick. We get there pretty fast, especially on bikes.
Be detailed with your description too. Specifically that it's an ongoing argument, that there are 2 people there. Are they aggressive? Are they in each other's faces? I think it's going to turn physical. Something, because when we get calls, they get broken down into priority levels. And if it's a lower priority, which would be like somebody's playing their music too loud, or it's 7 o'clock in the morning and the construction crew's already pouring concrete next to us, that's going to fall under low priority, because unfortunately we had a shortage of officers in the downtown area that we work in. They just shrunk the lines because we're the smallest sector in Austin, because Austin's broken down into different sectors. We're the smallest sector in Austin, by far the smallest, but we have the highest call volume. So we try and stay at 100% as best we can with our officers that are working, but that still leaves us basically going from call to call to call to call. So depending on the priority level, that noise complaint, or, you know, hey, I just got back from vacation and it looks like my car was broken into while I was gone, there's nobody here, that's going to be down at the bottom, right? And then your high priority is going to be, there's somebody, you know, physically assaulting somebody on scene, you know, they've got a gun, something to the extreme is going to be up there on that one, and then everything falls in between. So the more detailed you are about what that disturbance is it physical, does it look like it's about to get physical, there are multiple people, a crowd is building, it's causing a traffic, you know, situation, you're going to bump it up on that, and that's going to increase the response.
And use common sense and good judgment also, because, I mean, how many times have you gotten in an argument with somebody? Do you feel that the police should have been called during your argument? No, you're just arguing. You know, I argue with my wife all the time. Do I need somebody to call the cops on me? No. So, you know, now is he approaching, or is that other person approaching that other one aggressively? Is he blading? It looks like he's fixing a fight. Did he already swing, or was contact made? Yeah, definitely. But if it's just a simple argument, which happens all the time, there'll be an argument right next to us. And we'll be like, whatever. You know, just use that common sense and good judgment if you feel we need to intervene.
So I have a question. So in this building, I work with new hires when they come, and I always advise them about active shooter. And so in this building, have you had, can you give us an idea of how many active shooters you might have had in this area? Or if none, which would be great, if you have scenarios, or how do you judge as we're coming out who is not the one?
So as far as our response to those situations, you know, we do a lot of training on that. We've got a lot of protocols that we try and adhere to. Of course, every situation is dynamic, so it's not always going to fit, you know, a paper protocol of how you're supposed to handle it. But yes, as people are coming out, they're going to be dealt with as if they could potentially be a hostile person. So the officers are going to be telling them to keep their hands on their head. If you have nothing to do with it and you are 100% a victim, you're going to want to comply 100% with them. And there are going to be Overwatch officers that are staying with the people as they're coming out. They're getting patted down, they're getting ID'd, they're getting run, they're getting logged into the call. There's a lot of stuff that goes into us doing the best that we can to not let the suspect assume the appearance as a victim and squeak out the side door. Is it always perfect? No. That's a chaotic situation. As far as the ones that we've had down here, we had the one at the Omni, which one of our officers very quickly handled. Then we had the guy that was running around from our main station shooting at.
And it's hard to say if it's an active shooter because we don't know exactly what their intent was. Maybe they just off and, you know, might direct towards one building or whatever, but it's hard to say if it was an active shooter or just somebody who just...
He was actively shooting at the buildings. I mean, that guy, our response was on point on that one, and one of our officers made an unbelievable, you know, shot and took that guy out. Almost like movie, yeah. You know, hey, I'd rather be lucky than have skill. The way that went down was almost like it was in a movie out of Texas with him holding a horse in the reins in one hand and making the shot one-handed with the other. But fortunately for us, all of the active shooters that we've had in the downtown area have been stopped almost immediately. And there have been a ton throughout the city that have been prevented due to very aware citizens that have made calls, family members that have seen something go wrong, and officers that were on the ball in how they handled the call. Again, him and I had one years ago down south at the Walmart in South Park Meadows. We had a guy that was employed by Walmart, was a full-time employee, got knocked down to a part-time employee, which got rid of his medical. Well, he had hundreds of dollars worth of prescriptions that he had to have filled, and now that he had no medical insurance, he didn't anymore. He was an older gentleman, and he started leaving messages and texting family members, basically saying, watch the news tonight, I'm going to be on it, it's going to be big. Told his wife to return his library books and to make sure to feed the dog. Like just really off the wall, not normal comments, and they were on the ball. They called in, officers responded out to that house. They did some great work in investigating and trying to find him. Through their investigation, they were able to figure out, well, maybe it has something to do with where he worked down in South Park Meadows. They were able to ping his phone. His phone popped up in between the Walmart and the J.C. Penney's down in South Park Meadow. We were called with another officer that we worked with, got there, had a description of him. The officers that were on scene sent us a picture of him over the phone so we knew who to look for, and we went in and started looking for him in the Walmart. Every department that we went to, we were one department behind him. So he was in there, and he was moving from department to department. I went out to the front doors, and like at Walmart, you've got the one that leads to the parking lot, and then you got like that alcove where all the soda machines are that you put your cart, and then you got the one that leads you in. Well, as I walked out and circled back around just to see if he exited, I looked over, and he's at the Coke machine there. He's got a jacket on, he's leaned up against the Coke machine, and he's taking big breaths, like he's amping himself up to walk in there and do something. And it was at 5 o'clock, so you got people coming in and out like crazy. So I chose not to engage him right there, got on the radio, let these guys know I've got him, he's at this entrance. He starts to walk in, we take off. The other guy that was with us comes barreling around the corner and literally runs into him as we all grab him, take him to the ground, gun goes sliding. I think he had 2 guns on him. He had about 5 loaded magazines and a Ziploc bag with about 100 rounds in it. And we believe that he was going, and he went and walked through figuring out where he was going to go and who he was going to shoot. So, I mean, citizens that are paying attention, citizens that are calling and reporting things that just don't seem right, family members that are paying attention to their loved ones, and if there's a change in personality, attitude, the way that they handle things, and good police work, avert more mass shootings than actually happen.
And good thing for us, most people, for some reason, they want to put some of this stuff on social media. So keep track of that. And keep, if they make some weird comments, light should go off. It's good for us. I mean, it gives us a tip.
We have time for one more.
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say, you guys, thank you for your service. You put your lives on the line every time you clock in and every time you go on shift. And so just want to say thank you. You all handle everything that we don't want to handle. And just really appreciate it. So just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I just want to ask real quick. So we're in the building, there's an active shooter, we're hiding. How do we know it's you? How do we know, like, if his APD opened the door, how do we get ourselves out of that situation? Do we call 911? Do we wait till the building's searched? What do we do?
So you can call 911 and say, I've got somebody standing outside of my door claiming that they're a cop. I'm at that active shooter. I'm not opening that door until you can tell me that there's a cop standing out there. Yeah, I mean 100%. Or if there's a way to try and get a glance through a window or whatever. But I think we're all going to understand that in a situation like that, it's going to be extremely stressful. A lot of people are going to shut down, and they're not going to always be exactly responsive and cooperative with what we're asking them. They might not hear us because your auditory, shuts down, and sometimes you just don't even hear anything because it's just chaos and your body's never dealt with that before, so it shuts down. But yeah, calling 911 and asking, and they will get on the radio, they will try and find out. You can ask a series of questions that you might be comfortable with that And the other thing that you gotta think of too is active shooters in that situation, they're not gonna sit there and they're not gonna hang out at that door. Their objective is to shoot as many people as they can in the quickest amount of time as they can. And if somebody's not answering that door that they're knocking on, they're gonna move down to the next one. Which comes to the easiest thing to tell you in an active shooter situation like that to remember is run, hide, fight, or as the alert center teaches, what is it, avoid, deny, defend, add. It's just a quick and easy acronym to remember that the first thing that you want to do is avoid, run. Try and get out of the way, get out of the building as quick as you can. If you can't do that, then you're going to want to hide or deny. So shutting doors, getting away from windows, hiding in a room, turning the light off, locking, barricading, doing whatever you can to keep that person from coming in there. Because again, they're going to want to move as quick as they can. They want to find people. They don't want to sit there and mess with the door in hopes that somebody might be in there. And then worst case scenario, if the running and the hiding doesn't work and you're confronted with that person and you've got multiple people in that room, jump on them. Everybody grab a body part and don't let go. You know, elbows, fists, kick, stomp, do whatever you can. And if it's just you by yourself, obviously fight like your life depends on it. So.
And just think of the situation or the building or room that you're in. You know, in this instance, that door opens out, okay? So are you going to want to be away from him or are you going to be close to him if it comes down to fighting, right? So you're going to want to be as close to it as possible, right? You're not going to want to be on this side because the moment he opens, he's going to see you, right? So you're going to want to be on this side because typically once they open the door, the first thing you see is the muzzle, right? So you want the element of surprise. You don't want to be in the distance because he's got you. So you want to be as close to him as possible. If you're going to surprise him, if you're going to jump on him, then have that plan. Doors like that, you know, you can put a belt around the top to lock it so he doesn't pull it open.
Behind that, that's going to keep it from opening. Taking belts, multiple belts, and just wrapping it around there and knotting them as best as you can, they're not going to be able to open that door.
So, you know, just have that, like I said, have a plan. And we'll show a video to give you some ideas as far as, running, hiding, fighting, stuff to that.
My first thought is trying to throw something through those windows and getting out those windows.
The great thing with this building is there's multiple exits in all directions. You don't want to be in that center, in that lobby. You want to be away from it. So out. You know, throw, a door through the window and you're out of here. Or a chair. I'm sorry.
That's all the time. You know what I mean? That's all the time we have.